In this video, you are going to learn 7 of the most common habits many couples have that are hurting their marriage. But the scary thing is, a lot of these couples, they don't even know that it's causing issues until there's a big fight or there's years of disconnection, and then it becomes painful. And then that pain motivates them to figure out what's really going on. So here's the thing. We do not want you to minimize these or convince yourself that they're not that big of a deal, because over time, if these are not addressed, they will secretly destroy your relationship.
Yeah, and we've been coaching couples for the past 15 years, and I would say this is the very common, constant issues that come up when people are reaching out for help. And I just want you to know you're in a safe space, because we accidentally adopted these habits into our marriage when we were first married.
Yeah.
And it really, it nearly tanked us.
And again, we didn't even know.
Nope.
And then it became painful, and then we had to reach out for help.
Which is why we're so passionate about warning other couples to say, hey, if this is in your relationship, pay attention. So let's get into the 7 habits that are destroying your marriage. The first one is avoiding hard conversations. Now, let me just tell you, I'm like the president of this club. And I'm going to say we are the nicest people roaming the planet.
Oh, the avoiders?
The avoiders, yeah. We don't want to have, why would we stir up something? Why would we stir up hard conversations and create conflict?
Why would you put this as number 1 out of the 7? Because you're like, I can't avoid it.
And this is probably one of the biggest ones, because, whether this was modeled to you as from childhood, if you don't have tools, or, there's insecurities, you can't handle conflict. This will tank your marriage, because while you're trying to keep the peace, it's a false peace. Yeah. And it really came to awareness when you had shared with me, man, it feels like you don't care about me.
Yeah.
And that's like the last thing I wanted to communicate to you with my actions. But because I didn't deal with any of the issues, you had to initiate everything in the relationship, and you had to bring up all the issues, meaning like you were carrying all of the weight of the marriage.
And talking about feeling insecure, then it makes me, the partner who's not avoidant, really anxious, very frustrated. And yes, it felt like you didn't care about me. I questioned our relationship. Like, is he just avoiding? Does he actually not even care about me? I mean, I went on for years feeling that way.
And what's crazy is that's definitely not how I felt.
You did care.
I was trying to be nice. Mm-hmm. And so many people in marriages, and usually there's like one that's not an avoider, and there's that marries an avoider thinking, this person's so nice. But then you can't have those hard conversations. And so over the years, resentment builds, because all of this hurt can't be dealt with.
And not only does resentment build, but all those issues, because it's false peace, start to stack up on each other. And then 5, 10, 20 years later, you're looking at it and you feel so overwhelmed, because you're like, where do we even start?
Yeah.
The second habit is keeping score. This is really tracking who is doing what or who is not doing what. Yeah. Chores, favors, mistakes, instead of being a team. And so this is like, hey, I've initiated sex the last 5 times. Can't you even try? I watched the kids all morning. The least you could do is put them to bed. I've been really patient and nice lately. You owe me. And it's like this internal scoreboard. And I think when people keep score, this would be mine. If yours is avoiding, mine would be keeping score. It really comes from a frustration of feeling very unseen, unappreciated, that things aren't fair. And as someone who likes things very fair, what will happen is, if not addressed, you start to keep score. And when you're keeping score, resentment starts to build, right? That's that whole thing. So even if your spouse does something good, you're going to miss it because the resentment is so big. And I think that the keeping score, the inner scoreboard, it can be internal, it could be external, or it can be both. Let me explain. So I think for years, I didn't tell you that I was keeping score. Like, you wouldn't have known.
Okay.
Or maybe you did sense it, but you didn't really know.
No.
Because internally it was my thoughts. Oh, here we go again. And I just didn't say anything, but I mentally was thinking about, he didn't do this. He said he was going to do this. Well, I did this. So then when we would fight, it would all come out externally. Yeah. Right? So for months, sometimes years, I would keep it in, keeping score. So just be aware that if you're someone keeping score, it can show up internally or externally.
It's going to spill out at some point.
It will spill out eventually.
And then when it does, what you do is you overwhelm
the
your
other
partner,
person that doesn't
because
know.
you're like, let me tell you the 10 things that you haven't been doing.
Mm-hmm.
We call it stacking the deck, right? It's not just one thing, it's all 10 of those things.
Yes, but keeping score is so not good. I promise you, I've done it. It doesn't work. It doesn't help. And it really changes your heart and your mindset towards your spouse as a very negative view.
All right, the third bad habit we're going to talk about is living on autopilot. Now, there's this subtle transition that happens when you're moved from dating to marriage. When you're married, you start doing life together, and the routines of life start just kind of moving on by, whether it's work, kids, house projects, and it can kind of rock us to sleep a little bit. Whereas once, like when you were dating, it's like you had this vision for like a happily ever after. We're going to do this or we're going to do that.
When you're dating, everything's new and exciting too.
Yeah.
Marriage is very mundane.
It is. And what happens again is we just kind of move into autopilot. And it's not intentional. And this is the thing, is like we don't intentionally move to not being intentional in our relationship. But we just, if we don't have our eyes awake of like, hey, we need to have a plan here, we can move into autopilot. And when you're on autopilot, you start to subtly drift. And there's a navigational law called the law of 1 in 60, which means for every 1 degree off you go, when you travel 60 miles forward, you go 1 mile off of your target. And the thing is if you're 1 degree off in that first 25 miles, you don't feel it at all.
It doesn't really feel like a big deal.
And this is where we experience a lot of couples move into autopilot. And it's not during the early childhood, kid raising age. It's usually when they're empty nesting. They've gone so far off being together and staying connected. It's this one very insidious bad habit that, given enough years, you can feel like roommates, and a lot of people don't even like, who are you?
I'd say probably at least half the people that we coach or do marriage intensives with are in that brand new empty nest phase.
Yeah.
And they're like, I don't even know you. I don't even know if I like you anymore, because we were so on autopilot, just going through the motions of life. And yes, we've raised beautiful children and they're adults now, but...
And that's what kept us together.
Yes, but the big but comes, it's like, but I don't really want to keep living life this way.
Yeah.
Like that's, again, the pain, the wake-up call that we want you to prevent by paying attention to these habits. All right. Habit number 4 is choosing screens over connection. So if your spouse is choosing to be on their phone or watching TV constantly, over engaging with you, right? You're going to feel disrespected, ignored, not prioritized. And I think that we know screens are addicting.
Yeah.
We all know this. Every study shows screens. Yes. This is a really easier habit to fall into.
Yeah.
I mean, we can't even stand in line at Starbucks or the grocery store without picking up our phone and being entertained. Like, it's such a quick habit. Or, doom scrolling at night before bed. Like, we're all guilty of these things. And so watching TV or being on your phone isn't evil in and of itself. Like, those aren't bad things. The issue is if you're spending more time on your phone or watching TV or playing video games than you are in your marriage, that's when it becomes a problem. That's when the habit now has become almost an addiction. And that habit and addiction with screen time is a very narrow line. And again, it's going to hurt your relationship.
I mean, you think about it, 30 years ago, there was only a television screen with a couple channels, 13 channels.
Yeah.
Or
unless if you had cable.
Unless you had Nintendo too.
Yes.
But now there's so many ways to be distracted, so many things coming at us to like entertain us. And if we're not being intentional, right?
I think an interesting statistic is this. They say the average person watches 3 to 4 hours of screen time a day.
Wow.
That's the average, because I know there's some that are 6, 7, 8 up there. Okay. And I'm sure there's a couple of you that are like, I'm really good. I only do 1 hour a day. Okay. But the average couple spends 2 to 4 minutes a day connecting emotionally.
All right. The 5th habit we want to talk about is this idea of taking each other for granted. Now, again, you're living together, you're doing life together, you see each other in the morning, in the evening, all the time. And there's this saying that says familiarity breeds contempt, meaning like just having this close association, you kind of take each other for granted. And again, it's very subtle, but what can happen in relationships is there's no sense of positivity, right? It's just roommate talk, transactional, doing life, which has to happen. But a bad habit starts to form is we don't really call out and appreciate each other. And so we just take each other for granted. And there's this lack of respect even that can subtly come in.
Can I actually give an example?
Okay.
Okay. So we have a dog and we love our dog. And you were on a trip last week.
Yes.
And I realize how much you do for the dog that I actually take for granted.
Oh.
Because you do these things and you don't announce them, like, I walked the dog today or I picked up poop today, right? Like, but you brushed
him.
I was going to say, you brush the dog, you bathe the dog, and you walk the dog almost daily. And I realized I don't do those things. And so it's like, oh my gosh, I came back and I was so grateful that you were back. I'm like, what is the first thing I said? Oh my gosh, I can't wait for you to bathe the dog and brush him.
Okay.
But the point is that even simple things like that, like it's the dog, we joke about it, but we've had the dog for 8 years.
Yeah.
I definitely realized prepping for this video, I've taken that for granted. And I haven't actually like, hey babe, thank you for taking so much ownership with the dog. Now I know that I feed the dog every day.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But again, it's those little things that we do throughout the day that we just can. I think this one out of all the 7 habits, I was going to say, tangent, is the most sneaky one. It's the really slow, under the surface one that can go for a long time.
Yeah.
Because you're doing so much life together. And we all have our little pieces and parts that we do.
Yeah.
But we just don't think about it.
It's interesting because it's like if you've ever tried to lose weight, your spouse would never really notice that you lose weight. Because you see them all the time until a friend comes over, hasn't seen you in a while, like, wow, you look great. And you're like,
you do look great.
Yeah. But you know who doesn't take us for granted?
Who?
Our dog.
Aww.
Every time you walk through the door, right?
He's
just wagging a tail. And I
love point. He's always excited to see us.
And it's kind of like, I love the analogy of like, let's just say you have a favorite ice cream flavor. And every single day you went down to the store and you got your favorite ice cream. You know, after a year,
wouldn't be super exciting.
It wouldn't be an occasion. It really wouldn't. So again, we can just take each other for granted in these very subtle ways, but it's a bad habit.
Not to say that the ice cream flavor doesn't taste good though, because it still tastes good, but that's the whole thing is like, you just start taking things for granted that are really good. The 6th habit is assuming instead of asking. And I think that there's a couple of reasons why this happens. But I'm going to say number 1 is I think a lot of people assume that they already know what their spouse is thinking, feeling, and needing. So let's say, you and your wife get in a fight and you're like, oh, she just needs space. I'll give her space and she'll calm down. But it's like the last thing she actually wants. She doesn't want space. She wants you to engage with her, right?
She wants to deal with it.
I think we assume, especially if you've been married a long time, I already know what you need. I already know what you feel. Oh, I already know what you think about this. Okay, but I also think there's something called unspoken expectations. And we've talked a lot about this because we have very different expectations of how things should go in marriage. And I think that some of us have really high and unrealistic expectations. And then some of us just, and again, they're unspoken. They just aren't communicated. But it's like, well, I expected you to do it a certain way and you didn't do it that way. And then there's all this disappointment. And we're making assumptions that our spouse is going to do it the same way that we do it. But we married a different person. We didn't marry a clone.
Yeah. Well, and I think there's a story that we're telling ourselves that we live out inside of our marriage.
Tell me more.
There's a narrative, and if there's a lot of hurt and it's been a long time since you've been connected and feeling close, the hurt is actually guiding that narrative, right? And when you're hurting, hurt people. And what the narrative that you're telling yourself about your spouse is probably not a pretty picture.
It's not a positive one.
No. And so guess how you show up, right?
Yes.
If I think that you're the enemy, I'm going to show up.
You're going to assume the worst of me.
I am going to assume the worst of you. And that, because we're not talking, I'm bridging the gap right here and I'm creating the narrative that may not be true. And this is where couples can get wrapped around the pole of conflict and hurt, unforgiveness, resentment.
Well, assuming instead of just speaking up and talking is a communication issue. Of course, we can go deeper and go, is it resentment? Is it insecurities? Is it pride? Okay. But I think if you look at this, it really is a communication issue because you just have to speak up and say something and take that risk. But again, if there's broken trust, that'll get in the way. It's a complicated one. But I do believe we make assumptions that we don't even realize we're assuming.
And if you have an avoider, this one plays into this issue big time because the avoider doesn't want to talk about the hard stuff. So then the other partner's like, okay, well, I guess they don't care.
Yeah, then we assume they don't
care.
Yes, or we assume they're just going to avoid again, and then we don't say anything. But what is the quote? Is it, what do they say about when you assume? It makes an ass out of you and me.
Yeah.
Really? That's what the quote is?
Yeah, because you're not living in the truth or the reality.
Well, it's very unfair. Going back to someone who likes things unfair.
Fair one here.
If someone's ever made an assumption about you, how did you like that?
Ooh.
Not great, right? So then why would you make assumptions of your spouse or other people?
And assumptions are typically judgments.
They are, or like you said, there's a negative spin, especially in the marriage situation. Yeah. Maybe you're making the best assumptions of your kids or your coworkers, but typically in marriage, the longer you've been married, you make more of the negative assumptions.
And babe, how many times have we coached a couple and we're like, you're telling one side of the story, you're telling a different side of the story, but the truth is somewhere separate.
Yes.
They're living out these two separate realities.
Well, I remember a couple months ago, you came home and he was pretty angry, and he's not really an angry guy. And I assumed it was something that I did. And I'm so glad that I just asked. Okay. It wasn't even about me.
Oh.
And you were like, oh, that has nothing to do with you. It's something else. You were frustrated about something. And so
I'm trying to remember it.
That's all right. We can talk about it off camera.
I'm an avoider, so.
Well, it was, yes. No, it was something with family. But you were frustrated with a family issue. But if I had gone on assumptions, I would have just thought, well, he's mad at me.
Don't set.
Yeah.
No.
But I asked.
Yeah.
So don't make an ass out of yourself.
And the last habit that we want to talk about is putting work, kids, or even just being busy in front of the marriage. And this has everything to do with priorities. Something that we do in coaching oftentimes is we actually list out a priority in someone's life. And when they start to realize that the marriage is not number 1 or 2 or 3, it's 4 or 5, it creates a lot of dysfunction. I'm just thinking of one of the 7 habits of highly effective people is put first things first. And when you don't put first things first, it really starts to mess with the connection and the relationships you have. And it's an easy one to fall into again, because no one's going to harm you or say something bad like, why are you putting your kids, making your kids a priority?
Yeah. Or why are you working? Well, I have to work to provide for my family.
But where this really gets meted out inside of marriage is when we're making decisions and who gets to win. Oh, I got to take this work call, babe. I'm sorry. We're on a date night, or we're spending time together, but I'm checking my emails. Or, hey, I don't have time for you. I'm taking the kids. I'm doing something with their activities. And when it comes to, hey, we need to decide like who is going to get first billing on our schedule.
Yeah.
It's not each other oftentimes.
Well, you've heard that thing. It says like your bank account is a reflection of your values. Well, so is your calendar. Ooh. Your calendar and our bank account are a reflection of what you actually care about and what matters to you. So if on your calendar, your marriage isn't on your calendar, it's probably not in the top couple things of your priorities. And so again, if you're not, relationships require both quality and quantity time.
Yes.
This isn't a new thing. If you were dating and you never made time for each other, you would have never gotten married. You've been like, this guy or this gal doesn't care about me. They're not prioritizing our relationship. And I like what you said, like life happens, we get busy, but it's like you constantly have to fight for time.
You do.
There's always going to be something. There's always going to be that extra job you can pick up, or the kids are sick. Like there's always something. But at the end of the day, if you're not prioritizing your marriage, this is why it's one of the 7 habits, like you will lose your marriage or it will cause major issues down the road. You can't put it on autopilot. You can't neglect it. You have to make time for it, no matter what.
And I mean, I would say, how many times have we heard work always wins?
Yep.
Or
we're in a
child-centric marriage.
Yep.
Those have everything to do with misplaced priorities. That's the word. Yeah. And I really do believe with all of these habits, you're not intentionally doing this. You're not like, hey, I want to get married and I'm going to put work first before you.
Yeah. I'm going to wake up and I'm going to avoid issues today. Like we don't intentionally
I'm going to wake up and I'm going to stare at my screen all day.
I don't think any of these things are typically intentional, but it's important to understand the impact it's making, the negative impact that it's making. Intent versus impact is a big thing that we talk about at Marriage 365.
Yes, we do.
Yes. So as a friendly reminder, Casey and I have done all 7 of these habits at one point or another in our marriage. I think actually at one point we had 7 out of 7.
Yeah.
Probably. And you might be watching. Yeah. You might be watching going, oh, we only have 3, or we have 5 out of 7, or we, like you, have 7 out of 7. But here's the good news. There is hope that if we can change and we can say, hey, we don't want to experience these bad habits. We want good habits in our lives. If we can do it, you can do it. And that really was the inspiration behind our book, The Marriage Habit.
In our book, we break down what are the 10 healthy habits that bring about connection, intimacy, fun back into relationships. It's what we use to bring our marriage back from the brink of divorce. It's what we use for coaching other couples. And frankly, based off the research we've done, these are the habits of thriving couples that are successful, feeling satisfied in their relationship. And the reality is that we're all creatures of habits. Predictable patterns creates a sense of security for us. And if we're unintentional, we get into those bad habits. And if we're intentional, we can actually easily install good, healthy habits. And we kind of like piggybacked off this idea of habit stacking, which means, like, for example, if you wanted to be healthy, you want to live a healthy lifestyle, just going to the gym, which would be one habit,
isn't enough.
It's
a great thing.
Yeah. It's going to the gym. It's eating healthy. It's getting good sleep. It's drinking. Sauna's a nice bath.
Drinking enough water.
So all of those tiny, small habits stack to a very healthy lifestyle. And if you were to install these 10 habits into your marriage, it would literally transform your life. So we're so passionate about getting this into your hands. If you want to get a copy today, scan the QR code here or click on the link in the description.